I'm going over this post Captain USA posted on Reddit where he's asking where his OGs are at, and he's asking for Azrael, Zol, Mandy, Pachuka, King Klops, which, by the way, is ridiculous. These are like mostly people just from Zelda Online. A lot of them were kind of dissipated when it became Graal. Um, these were people from the ROM community. And it's a little bit weird considering Captain USA was well aware of Pachuca being a child molester. I don't know how he forgot that. Um, and I bring that up because somebody had mentioned my name in here. I was just reading through this because I actually remember Captain USA. We were friends, and we were in Bruges core together. Um, so somebody had mentioned Antago, and he said, "Oh, he forgot me," which is bizarre because I'm from the first version of Graal. I was not playing Zelda Online, which was like a total like ROM ripoff thing. I thought Graal was its own game, like it had just come out and I had just found it. Because I actually came from Zelda Ocarina of Time. I was playing Ocarina of Time, and we beat it, and I was just looking for all kinds of cheat codes and stuff for it, or just secret stuff that we could find left in the game. And there was a link to a Zelda game, and it happened to be Graal, and it was when Graal had just come out. And so I joined during the first version, and so Captain USA knows me well. I don't know why he's pretending he doesn't. Again, this is all this stuff strikes me this agenda to erase me from history, and there's reasons for it, and we can touch on some of it. We'll go over it. But one of the reasons is I was on every project. So I was in Bruges Core. Bruges Core was a really really impossible group to get in, and I was in Bruges Core, and I have a log of that somewhere. I don't remember where, but I think I was posing as another character. I would often go undercover by different screen names because people were hacking me all the time. I didn't just go under different screen names because I felt like it. I was going under the different screen names because there were child predators and pedophiles and people who were hacking children and preying on kids. And so I would often use different aliases so that people didn't know that it was Antago. And by the way, Antago is the original pronunciation. Antago is the original pronunciation of Antago. It's just that a lot of Spanish people thought it was Antago, and I had some friends from who spoke Portuguese from Brazil in my life who had called me Antago a lot. So sometimes I call myself Antago, but technically it's Antago. Anyways, we were on Graal 3D. Captain USA, Stefan, and myself were running around in Graal 3D. There was a logo. I forget where the logo went in the screenshots. I think it got cropped out. But you can find some of the older screenshots. You can still find that. And it was stupid. It wasn't the greatest thing, but I did a logo for it. I had my custom clothes, and I was trying to help Stefan to do other custom stuff. And so we were going to work on the Graal 3D thing. I had access to the first Game Boy. I had sent Stefan my headset for the Antago playable character for the Game Boy. ROM that he was, or not ROM, for the Game Boy. What do I want to call it? It's there was a specific term for it, but it was whatever, for the Game Boy client that he was building, and he was going to try to market it for Game Boy. And so he had different, the different characters and stuff in there, and I was like, well, you got to have mine in there. So I did the headset for it. I had access to that. I was running the Graal 3D website. You can see that in old archives. I don't know where Captain USA is getting this nonsense that he doesn't remember me. It was me, him, and Bruges and Bruges Core. Now, Bruges never put me on his website for Bruges Core. It was always a secret thing. Nobody knew that I was in Bruges Core, but I got the green light. So, I spoke to Bruges because, I was in, for one, I was in Jesus Freaks, and I was one of the founding members of Jesus Freaks. I was, one of the first 10 members who had formed that group, and I was one of the first 10 members who had formed that group, and I was one of the first 10 members who had formed that group, and I was one of the first 10 members who had formed that group, and I was one of the first 10 members who had formed that group, and I was one of the first 10 members who had formed that group, and joined within the first 30 days of it existing. So Bruges and I were pretty close, because he was like the top scripter, and I was a jack of all trades, and I was running on Antago Gravity. So like people are covering it up, and like they never mentioned it. They wouldn't put links to it on the websites. Everybody would claim that it wasn't a thing, but it was. It was a thing. Even when people are telling you I'm a liar and that it wasn't a thing, I have records. I'm going to show you. It was a total thing. Antago Gravity, I created the first creators, like the actual first creators community of. It was basically. It was like I pulled everybody together. I pulled all the creators together, and the group was called Gravity. So it was Antago Gravity. And let me see if I can find that real quick. Where was that? So this was a website. This was one of the versions. Some of them had better designs, and then I kind of stopped designing it because you can see here that Spider had kept hacking it. And it wasn't just Spider, it was a bunch of people. So there was PACHUKA hacking my websites. Gallon was net busting people. Spider had a whole group of people. It was Spider, Corson, Waygraph, Weathervane, Lyle, Frequent. Who else? Owl Shyme was kind of like close with them and doing weird stuff and constantly like defaming me and saying weird stuff. Viper wanted to be a part of the like them, but like never really could be. But he was always like saying like defaming me on different websites. Gallon had like put a hit out on me on Graal.goth.net on TerraWeb. And PACHUKA put a hit out on me on GraalOnline.com. I think I was the first player anybody had ever put a hit out on like the Graal on Graal Online, like the official website. I was like the first player anybody had ever put a hit out on. You could find that in the archives. So this idea that nobody knows who I am is nonsense. Everybody knows they know who I am. And Captain USA, we were friends. I don't know why he's claiming he doesn't remember me. It's ridiculous. You know what? You know what, Captain USA, this is one of the things I never liked about him, was he always had this, and it's everybody, it was a pedophile community. So you have to understand everybody has different agendas. They're all manipulators and they're all players, and they play with you. They play these tales, and they act like they aren't playing. They act like they aren't lying. Like, these are grown-ass adults who are still lying and playing mind games with people. Like, as a creator, I'm outside of that. I actually took a vow, like, not to lie when I turned 18, just because I'd been in the closet for so long. And I realized that lying was super, like, toxic for me because I was forced to lie about my sexuality, right? So I had stopped lying, like, way before other people. I think that, like, there's still, like, everybody else in this community is still lying about stuff, and they're full-grown adults. And it's crazy to me. It's like, you guys, stop acting like we don't know what's going on. Captain USA, you guys, let's talk about it. So, and it's trivial. I don't really care. But it's still an amusing story. So anyways, I had Antago Gravity, and there was various renditions of this website before I gave up on it because they kept hacking me. Because I created the first actual studio. It's like an actual game studio. Antago Gravity, I had united the creators. So I created, I was the first to unite the creators, and then I was the first to unite the destroyers under Kazeta, which was an encrypted form of the name Antago. So like, I did that. Yeah, I had united the creators, and then the destroyers hacked it and ruined it, and then I united the destroyers, and then we went and we wrecked a bunch of the evil stuff that was happening and launched a bunch of files that people were trying to like steal, and we just made it open source. So this was Antago Gravity. This was the first thing I did with that particular stuff. You can see Spider had been hacking it. This goes back to 1999, and there was stuff I think before July, because he had hacked the website multiple times. So like this went back, I think probably to like maybe to, I think it might have been April or March is maybe when I first started it of 1999, which is like you're talking about the beginning of Graal. And Captain USA is one of those people where he always wants to pretend that Zelda Online is like the beginning of Graal. It's like you couldn't even have custom headsets It was just like, it's like, no, you found like a Zelda ROM on a Zelda site, Captain USA. Like, it was called Zelda Online. So, anyways, when it had become a gaming community, that's when myself and others had become a part of the community. As we when Graal had become a thing. So like, this was one of the pages, and a lot of the styling's gone because this is just archive.org and it doesn't capture everything. But there's like 13 people who I had in the Antago Gravity group. So this was like my first attempt at creating like a studio. And so you could come to us, and at this time, this was 1999, where I was mostly just doing like GIF, like images as favors for people. So these things aren't like necessarily things like the only things that we were doing, but these are things that we would do for people for free. Or if somebody wanted to do a favor for us, so we would do things for trade. So on Taco Gravity, we had like 13 members, and there were more over time, as you could see, because like I was still working on my studio and stuff, and I started making like, my whole fucking game. So like over the next year, like you're talking into 2000, from 2000 to 2001. So this was from 1999. From that to 2000, 2001, I had a ton of networks. Like Graal 2001, like the team, the admins, a lot of people don't even know that. Like the admins from 2000, Graal 2001, those were my Destiny admins. Those were my admins. Gonmon, Godspeed, like all these people, they were my fucking admins. They were my admins. Like they were my admins for my stuff. And a bunch of like the talent and people who were doing like graphics and stuff, like they were on my fucking teams. So like Freak Plus, like even though he like had done some favors for Stefan and stuff, like Freak Plus was a part of the Destiny staff, and was considered a part of the Gravity Ring. So like, I don't know why people are trying so desperately. I mean, I have ideas as to why. Obviously, I think people just want to erase history because they're not a part of it, and they don't like feeling out, and they don't want truth out there, especially if they haven't really been much of a part of it. But my websites were hacked over and over and over and over again. And you can see that like they refused to give me guild tags. And it's like, I had 13 fucking people, you guys. 13 fucking people who were like central. So like you can't see all their names here because like the logos didn't get archived, but they were like big names in the community. I had at least 13 just in 1999 alone. And so like after like they had started the account system, Gallon refused to give me guild tags. Like he gave me guild tags before the account system, before guilds were being registered in the account system. Like there was guilds used to be created through encrypted files, and you would have to put it in your folder, and like that would put a guild tag on your name. So like I got like I had like a guild tag for like Antago. I had a guild tag for God of Gravity where like my name was in parentheses. I believe I had that at one point, and then I had God of Gravity in parentheses. So like those were like, big deals back in like 1.1 when you could not, before accounts and stuff, because you couldn't get those, and they wouldn't make them for just anybody. So where and why some of that stuff went, or whatever, I don't want to go too deep into all that, but like there was a point where like Gallon just wouldn't he wouldn't make me fucking guild tags after the account system came out. And that was when I didn't realize it, but that was a very big point where you can see like they were starting to try to like steal my fucking legacy because people were jealous. And so I had 13 fucking people who were creators. You could come to us and we would make stuff for you. So I had a hand in everything. I don't know why Captain USA is pretending he has no awareness of all this stuff and he never remembered me. Like Antago Gravity was fucking big. You're talking about 1999 before social media and stuff. Like even Antago Press, like my Antago Press site, if you look down here at the bottom, you'll see that there was like 7,426. I think that they were unique impressions. But they were whatever they were impressions. So like that's a lot of people who were watching my personal websites. Just on this one, this was a Antago press, so like this one also had its own counters that were not included in this. And so like back then, you're talking about that many visitors, like in a small community where there's only like 100 people online at a time, or 30 people online at a time. That is a lot of people to be visiting your websites. So everybody knew who I was. I don't know why he's lying about it. I just think it's just something interesting to talk about because we were in Bruges core. Captain USA and I were also on Graal 3D. Um, the other weird thing is here's Captain USA talking about a list of his schizophrenic entities that you can ask about and any of them, and he'll tell you who they are, what their name is, and what they were doing. Where they flashed in visuals in his mind's eye. So he said, feel free to ask anything about them and he'll respond descriptions about them. So Captain USA on Reddit is claiming he has schizophrenia and he has entities talking to him. And if you look at the actual list, there's like 50 of them. This list goes on and on. I don't have all the screenshots of it. You can pull it up yourself. Like it's on his Reddit profile. And so there's like, I don't know, like 50, 60 of them or something. He's got like 50 different like named schizophrenic entities in his head. He said he remembers them all by name. You can ask them anything about them. He remembers those, but he doesn't remember being in Bruges core with me. He doesn't remember being on Graal 3D with me. He doesn't remember me running the first like true creators studio, Antago Gravity, and it being hacked all the time. He doesn't remember people like leaking my hard drive. It was downloaded by everybody, hundreds of people. You can still see the archives of it. He doesn't remember that. I just find it bizarre that like he feels the agenda. Like you're fucking. How old are you, dude? You're like old enough that it's bizarre that you're still like lying about stuff. Like of course he remembers me. You know why? Another thing that I just find it so suspicious is just like he's talking about how he made Onet Town in the Forest Maze. Which we're like, okay, whatever. Not only did I have a house in Onet Town at one point where like before Destiny was moved to the southern map, because you could like Destiny was the first quote unquote player world. It was the first one. And it was in Onet Town, but and I renamed Onet Town to Nearrunner Town. I renamed it. I renamed Onet Town to Nearrunner Town. That was me who did that. Captain USA doesn't remember me renaming his fucking town, Onet Town, to Nearrunner. It was Nearrunner for like a decade. It was like a long time. For a long time, Onet Town was called Nearrunner Town. He doesn't remember, but he remembers 50 schizophrenic entities. He doesn't remember working on Graal 3D with me. It was just us three, by the way, Stefan, Captain USA, and myself. He doesn't remember that. But he remembers 50 schizophrenic entities, and you can ask him anything about them. He doesn't remember the Graaloween. I created the first Graaloween. He doesn't remember that. I'm pretty sure he showed up. And if he didn't, I know he was thinking about it. So let me find that. I'm trying to find something. There was another post here. Oh, here. We were working on graphics together and stuff too. So like here, you can see in this post, I was talking about how I had designed a new Bommy, and I had asked Captain USA to finish the back view. So he finished the back view for me. Again, because I had created a creator studio. Antago Gravity was a creator studio that I had created. That was my studio, and like I had all of the fucking people in my reach. So I was in every group. You guys, I was in every fucking group. I was in Bruges Core, which was only like me, Captain USA, and Bruges. It was impossible to get in Bruges Core. I was in Bruges Core. And, you know, to back some of that up, like, for one, you guys, like, you can check the old, like, Graal character designer, the Graal, like, clock in the fucking text file. I'm only telling you guys this stuff because everybody's constantly gaslighting the narrative and lying about my history. I have to keep fucking putting facts out there. So I apologize if I have to fucking keep fucking beating a dead horse. This just needs to happen because people are trying to erase what my legacy. They're just trying to erase it, and I'm not going to fucking let that fucking happen anymore. For one, it was orchestrated by pedophiles, and it was groomed by pedophiles. Like, Graal was created by Stefan and PACHUKA, just so you guys know. Like, people think that Graal was created by Unixmad and Stefan originally. It was not. Graal was originally created by, well, I wouldn't even say it was created much by Stefan. He did an engine, he coded an engine, but it was created by Nintendo mostly, because he literally just created a Zelda 3 ROM, but it was created by Stefan's Zelda 3 ROM that he ripped off, and PACHUKA. That was Graal. Graal was PACHUKA and Stefan. Unixmad just had a server. He was just some dude who had a server, and he was constantly trying to market other people's shit and steal it and claim credit for it, which he doesn't own any of that stuff. Unixmad was just a server guy, and he kept like rebranding himself and like colluding with Stefan to like boost his title and to claim he owned everything, which he does not, and he never did own anything. Like, for one, all the assets were ripped off from Zelda. You don't own Zelda. Just like when he was running Cyberjor, he was like claiming he owned Bomberman and claiming he owned Tetris, which is fucking insane. Insane. Unixmad's a fucking liar. He was just a server guy who ran a fucking server. Graal was created by Stefan and PACHUKA. Just to put that out there. Stefan and PACHUKA created Graal originally. And then I took PACHUKA's place, because he would created the whole southern map, and that was replaced with my levels, and then my legacy and stuff. And the first pay server was by me. That was supposed to be PACHUKA who was doing that, but Unixmad tried to steal all of PACHUKA's stuff because he was running the server. And so he was going to abuse his server, which is illegal. He was going to abuse his server because he was in Paris. He thought he could get away with it, and tried to like steal PACHUKA's place. And PACHUKA was an adult, so he got a lawyer and said, "Fuck you, you're not going to do that." So anyways, I ended up taking PACHUKA's place. That's why everybody fucking hates me and they want to fucking bury my name, because everybody wanted to be PACHUKA and everybody fucking worshipped him, and he was a pedophile who groomed everybody and manipulated and threatened everybody and hacked people and fucking terrorized them. So PACHUKA, the people hate me because I took his place. That's why they fucking hate me. PACHUKA fucking groomed a lot of people, and then there was other people who were jealous who were joining in, like TYHM or whatever. He's a fucking creep. You can even check in one of these old threads where somebody was like, "Why was Antago banned?" And I was banned, by the way, by Unixmad because I took credit for my stuff, and Unixmad's like, "How dare you? You've never done anything, and you haven't done much, so you need to go away." I was like, "Fuck off, dude. No, you can't fucking sit there and start." He was trying. Unixmad started doing to me what he was doing to PACHUKA. But like, PACHUKA was an adult and he couldn't do it to PACHUKA, so he did it to me. But Graal was created by PACHUKA and Stefan. Anyways, Captain USA knows me well. I renamed his fucking town. Net Town was fucking renamed by me. We were working on Graal 3D. I was in Bruges fucking core. I was in Bruges core. I was in Jesus Freaks. I was in Baddies. I was in what else was I in? I was in. Oh yeah, I ran the first Creators Guild, or it wasn't a guild, but my studio, the first Antago Gravity, which was a studio, and it basically, you could come to us and we would do free stuff for you. And then there was, so it's kind of like a guild, but not really. Like, we never had a guild tag, like I said, and it would have conflicted with some things. Like, a lot of the people who were in the Gravity Ring, they were not allowed to be in multiple guilds. So like, which is stupid. Again, I think that's cultic and bizarre, because like, a lot of them were in Jesus Freaks, going back to the fact that Jesus Freaks was a fucking cult. So anyways, yeah, I was in that. I was in, the administrator on the classic server, the first server. I was the first player world, and I ran, like, my websites were the most popular and always at the top of the charts during many different periods. And then, like, I was the first pay server. I did the first Graaloween. So, like, I was on Graal 3D, and I was the one running the website, and I was the only one who was able to do that. I was basically in everything. Like, I was the only person who was literally in everything, and who was making all the like, I took, like, the Jesus Freak adventure. I fucking skipped that thing and said, hell no, you're not taking my games. So I basically destroyed I was on the JF adventure, which is the original New World, and That's why they kicked me off. I was never on the New World project, the quote unquote the New World 2.0 project, which was Jesus Freaks Adventure. By the way, jump started just without me on it. Um, I was not allowed. I was not allowed to be. So yeah, but I was in everything else basically, and so this idea that people don't remember me, you guys, I'm showing you the receipts. You can see my name everywhere. You can see it, and you're not seeing like everybody else's name all over stuff. How is it that time and time again people are like, who? Huh? Oh, that's weird. I don't remember him, because they were groomed by pedophiles and they knew that I was being hacked. And people had created this narrative that it was okay to bully me, to scapegoat me, and to tell everybody that I'm just irrelevant because they're jealous of me. It's that simple. It's that simple. And I wanted to bring it up because I think it's fucking, I think it's catty, and I think it's effeminate and weird for Captain USA to be fucking playing like games like that. Like, buddy, I renamed Onet Town to Near Town. Don't fucking tell people you don't remember that. I know it hurt you. I know it fucking cut you deep when I did that, because when he stole the name Onet from another game, and I fucking renamed it. I fucking took over Onet Town for a while. Il Panther's Tavern was in Onet Town for a while. I took over the fucking tavern. My house was in there. Destiny was in there. I was in Bruges Core, Bruges House, Bruges Core, a part of Bruges Core, not the, like, they never actually released the full Bruges Core. But Bruges Core was really cool. You guys don't remember that because it was never released, but it was like super cool stuff. Like, it was really cool levels. Bruges was badass at like NPC scripting. And he had originally created the Pegasus boots, which is where I got the idea to create like a bunch of boots for my game. So like, when Bruges left and Bruges Core had dissolved, I had kind of carried that torch and that legacy through a lot of the inspiration. So like, Bruges had, I believe he had like a Yoshi doll at one point, and you could get it in the Crane, the BC Crane game. That was part of Bruges Core, which is why it's called BC, which stands for Bruges Core. But there was like this like tree world, like this like little magic treehouse world where you could go to that they never released on the server. I don't think they ever actually fully released it on the server, because I remember playing it in the just offline in his levels pack. The original Bruges Core that he had levels pack that he created. And so the Pegasus boots were part of that, which I guess he had ripped off from another game. But I liked the idea of creating boots that gave you special powers. And so when Bruges Core dissolves, I just kind of went off and took a lot of the inspiration from our group and did other stuff with that inspiration. Like I said, I decided to think, well, like, what if there wasn't just a Pegasus boots? What if there was like all kinds of other boots, you know? And so I started creating a bunch of other boots. In fact, I think Bruges coded the first gravity boots, which was part of the fact that I was a member of Bruges Core, and it was just us three basically. I was like an under the table member, but like I got the green light. I had asked Bruges, I was like, hey, can I be in there? And he was like, he gave me the official yes. So like, I know that Captain USA doesn't, how could he possibly forget about all that? And you can see that legacy with Bruges. For one, me and Bruges were some of the top members of Jesus Freaks when it first started. So it's bizarre for Captain USA to like claim that he doesn't remember that. Like, what do you remember? You remembered Pachuka the pedophile. I don't know why like you're remembering that. Very selective memory there, bro. So anyways, I just wanted to call that out because I'm so sick of the hypocrisy and the lies. We had worked on graphics together, and anyway, let's move forward and talk just about Bruges Core since I'm already like rambling in that direction. Yeah, so like Bruges Core was, I was in everything basically, like everything that was cool. I tried to be in it basically. So like anything that had like powerful creative people in it, I was in there. And I was like the only person who was in everything, that was like mega. And so like one of the reasons people started to hate me is because I was in everything, and I'm the one who took over. I took Pachuka's place. I took over Graal. Like I took it over, and people hated me for that. They resented it, you know, and they chased me away. And I was 12 years old, and I got to a point where like after like several years of it, I couldn't do it anymore. But anyway, so like you can go to the screenshots of Graal, and if you go to the oldest, you can see like there's like one, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's like seven screens. The first seven screenshots, three of them are my screenshots. Three of them are my screenshots. Um, so like if you look in here, that's my screenshot. This is me there in the center. That little helmet, that was my shield, the shield with the A. I had like my own shields. I was one of the first people to have a custom headset. Like when the first custom headsets dropped, that was like 100 through. So there was a big gap between I think head 25 and head 100 for a long time. The first original custom headsets, it came after like head 24 or something like that, head 24, and then there was, I believe it was head 100 through head 110, 120ish or something. So like the first time the custom headsets had dropped, um I believe that there might have been some that were like right close to the original headsets, and then there was a big gap there. And so for a long time that they just ended up filling that gap in over time. So like I had like one of the first custom headsets, and that was what this was. And this headset was based and inspired off of Bruges core. Um which was like a desert helmet. So like my original face was like that little thief face because nobody else was using it, except for like Haas. Haas was like the only one who wore that headset from who was like who had been there from like the beginning with everybody whose name when Graal had started becoming established. So like other than him, like that was my headset. I wore that head because nobody else was wearing it, and I liked it. I thought it was a cool. I really liked the style of it. So like I made that my thing. But like underneath like my little hooded like visor here with the desert veil in the back, um, that was that would be the thief head underneath that. So that's like a helmet that I would put on sometimes. And that had come from, for one, PACHUKA's. I thought PACHUKA's head actually had a visor originally, but it turns out he has red eyes. So, but I liked the idea of a visor. But one of the things that I really liked was my Bruges core headset. So Bruges had the red version of this helmet, and that was his head that he wore. So Bruges, well, actually, I think he wore the blue one too. Um, I'm not sure exactly which color he chose. I forget. But I do remember that was like the Bruges core helmet was that because there's like the red one and the blue one. And Bruges would like that was his thing. So Bruges wore that helmet all the time, and that became his headset. Even though it was a little bit later, but like Bruges because he had so much power at the time. Like so, Graal was originally fantasy. It was fantasy, and it was like pure. It was very, very almost pure fantasy and medieval. There was a time when Graal was very magical and it was very enchanted. That period had slowly disappeared over time. Um, and that's like that's one thing that you guys will never understand is that like it was a magical time because for one they ripped it off from Zelda, but then like when it had become Graal, there was original headsets, and all of the headsets were super like they fit the vibe of fantasy. They fit it. They fit the vibe of medieval very, very well. And so Graal, and this was like before the burger fucking joint. This was before the bank. This was before all this stupid stuff. Before there were shortcuts everywhere. And I do take credit for putting a bunch of shortcuts everywhere. And I shouldn't have did that, because I think it ruined it. But you know, it happened, and it was before that, and then it was before um, just all that stuff, the warp rings, and hundreds of new headsets, hundreds of new different like shields and sword like skins that you could wear. It was before it had become a cluster fuck of just trash and anything goes. It was very, very fantasy and very enchanted and very magical, and it was very dark, and it was a war zone. It was a fucking war zone. Like, you guys will never understand just how absolutely magical and enchanted that time period was. And it does matter. It is a time that matters because things weren't so ridiculous and goofy like they are now. We were living in like a virtual enchanted era, like at the first decade of the internet. Like, the internet wasn't even 10 years old, and there we were playing online gaming. Like, before, online gaming wasn't really a thing except for like Quake, and like Diablo and Ultima Online. So like, no, very few people knew of what online gaming even was. So like, we were the pioneers of the internet, and it was a very different era, and it was very magical, and it was very enchanted. Over time, it had become convoluted, and a lot of that charm and luster, it doesn't exist anymore. You've lost it. There's too many headsets. There's too many goofy things. There's too many, there's burger joints. There's carousels, and I'll take some blame on the carousel because I put the orange carousel on my house, which I actually got from Mantara. Stefan had Mantara, which was his first quote unquote player world, but it never qualified as a player world, quote unquote, because Stefan could never be called a player. So just so you guys know, mine was quote unquote the true first official player world, which I still take offense to because I'm not anybody's player. I had my own studio and I was doing my own stuff. And I made that game my fucking self. So like, I'm nobody's fucking player. That's nobody's player world. That's my stuff. So like, anyways, but Mantara was super fucking dope, and I don't know why Stefan like dropped it and got rid of it. But that's where I got that Kubel. So like that Kubel little plants. I actually snatched that. Where was that? Let me see here. Here's the. So like in the tile set, like, I'm like the only person who was allowed to actually put custom tiles in the tile set. So like these cliffs, these are my cliffs. These little stone things are mine. The Bommy statues, those are mine. Like different various tiles all throughout the tile set. I started filling some in because there was like holes and missing. Like this thing here. And then like other various things. These were mine. You can see they're ugly because I was 12. And 14, 12 through 14 when I was making stuff. But this right here was my plant, which Stefan had created this, which was his Kubel plant. And it was in Mantara. And I was like, you can't let Mantara go to waste. I was like, I'm going to put that fucking thing on the tile set. I don't even think I asked his permission. I just did it. And like, I sent it to him. This was during Graal 2000. When we were making Graal 2001, so it would have been in the year 2000. And so like I took the tile set and I threw a bunch of stuff in there that I had made, and then I took his Kubel little plant because I always thought it matched the original style of tiles when he had took Zelda 3. Like all these were Zelda 3 tiles, and he just like kind of like tried to stylize them a little bit, but they were just taken from Zelda. So like I took his plant because I thought it matched that style, and I stuck it in there. And it should be in there. And so like that's how that got in there, because he was going to let that go to waste. He had like there were versions of that tree that were growing, like they would get taller and then they would turn into like a whole like tall tree with a bunch of leaves. But he didn't want to do anything with that. And so anyways, I stuck it in there. And then like I took like I had my own version that like I made myself, and it was like the Roosh. I just named it a Roosh, just a random name. But anyways, so that's where that came from. Anyways, so yeah, so this blue helmet I started wearing that. Like this was supposed to be like over my thief face. And that was because I had joined Bruges Corps. And I think like I had always felt like, honestly, like of all the guilds I've ever been in, like Bruges Corps wasn't really a guild. It was just like a small creators brotherhood. So like it wasn't like it was kind of like Gravity, but it was just like not like Gravity. It was like a small like brothers, like it was just a small brotherhood. because Bruges was very religious and he was super into programming, and like it was supposed to be like his little thing. And so I had honestly felt like, and I don't know if I joined Bruges. I might have joined Bruges Core before JF. In fact, I might have joined JF because Bruges was in JF. Um, but I remember when I got into Bruges Core, because I was sending him ideas and I was asking him to code them. He I just had always felt like I was more of like part. I always felt more like I was part of Bruges Core than anything else. Like, yeah, I was in Baddies. Yeah, I was in Jesus Freaks. And my fucking legacy there. I wrecked that bitch. I made it come alive. I made people laugh. I made people fucking cry in those places. But I had always truly felt like deep down, like Bruges Core was like the one group that I joined that I actually identified with. And so I would wear that helmet from time to time. Nobody knew that, but that's why I wore that helmet from time to time. It was just like a little nod to Bruges Core all the time. And so my helmet that I created, my custom helmet, was my own version of the Bruges Core helmet. And I was just a kid, so I wasn't the best artist, but like that's why I created that. And then I had my own little shield with the A on it and stuff. I had a couple shields with an A on it. I had a bunch of headsets that I made. Some of them even had an A on it. But like I always just stuck to like the thief head, this blue helmet, and then every once in a while, like when Destiny was being stolen and moved to the main server from my house in Near Town or Onet Town, I would wear the Bruges Core little tribute helmet. So I don't know. I don't know. It was the only group I was ever in that I think had high identification with. But it was just like all under the table in secret. So yeah. So that's why I wore the Bruges Core helmet when Destiny was dropped. You can see my name there. When it was dropped and these were my 4th of July fireworks for it. So like, I threw the 4th of July event. When we did that, you would have thought that I would have wore like my own custom headset and stuff, but instead I wore the Bruges helmet. So that was what that was. I don't know why Captain USA pretends he doesn't remember all this stuff. Like, that stuff is like pretty big and pretty fucking deep, dude. I don't know what he's talking about. I think that what it is Captain USA never got to my level, and I don't know if he would have liked to have taken Pachuka's place, or if he had preferred if Pachuka had stayed. But eventually what happened was a lot of people just resented me because the stuff that I was creating, as it was like, it was so influential. My Creators Guild was so powerful. My websites were bigger than Pachuka's. My websites were bigger than other people's, and I had so many of them. And I had like so many different connections, and my levels were taking like Pachuka's place. And then like, I created the first pay server, which other people had expected Pachuka to do at one point. They had always thought that would be something Pachuka would do. And so I think that everybody hated me because I took his place. And so there's always been an effort to pretend, like, just erase me and pretend I never existed. Or they just forgot me, or I wasn't relevant. So Captain USA had noticed, he had always done this weird thing where he would fall back on Zelda Online. He'd be like, where's my Zelda Online people? Bro, you're on Graal. Nobody fucking, like, you were playing like a Zelda Online, like a Zelda app, Java app rip-off on Cyberjure. You're on the Graal forums, dude. Like, quit asking for Zelda Online people in the Graal community. Especially quit asking for Pachuka in a kids community. There's kids in here. Quit creating this climate. Like, I truly believe he just made this up. Like, I really believe Captain USA is just pretending. Like, Captain USA is doing what a lot of people are doing, where he's like, I don't remember. Oh, I don't remember him. Here's who I do remember. So he's trying to selectively remember history where he can place himself at the top. So one of the ways that Captain USA had always did that was I never played Zelda Online when it was like just like a Zelda app with like the Zelda head. because I'm not into ripoffs. I don't play ROMs. I don't play ripoffs. I don't pirate games. So like when Graal dropped, that's when like I started playing and stuff. But I don't play ripoff stuff. Like I don't play ROMs. So he was from a ROM community, and Captain USA frequently tries to rewrite history to the um to the point where that Zelda Online is the only people who matter and the only people he remembers, because then he can like claim himself as some like OG. Like for one, Zelda Online, it was a Zelda ROM, dude. Like nobody on here fucking cares. I don't know why you're talking about that. Like these people he's talking about, yeah, they're like the Zelda fucking online fucking crew, dude. And Pachuka's a pedophile. Stop dropping pedophile names in like a children's Reddit group. I don't know why you're doing that. It's weird. Anyways, what else was there? I don't want to go too much into everything. Oh yeah, so this right here. Remember this time where people were like, "Oh my God, you were gonna jail someone for having that horse." So going back to like, for one, I don't care if you guys think I'm corrupt, because I don't care. For one, I'm not. There's nothing you can take. What are you gonna do? Take things away from me? Tell everybody I'm a corrupt piece of crap? You guys, I am like known as like the biggest fucking like um I'm the historical cheater because I'm the only one that Pachuka ever put a hit out on GraalOnline.com. It'll always forever be there in the old GraalOnline like fucking archives. I will always be, and I will always be Kazeta Adizak, who fucking did mongers. Like, you think I fucking care? What are you talking about? Like, there's just like this idea where people think that like, where is that? Hold on. Where people think I care. Like, oh my God, you were so corrupt, you're gonna jail somebody. When I say I wasn't being corrupt, I wasn't being corrupt. Because I don't care if you think I'm corrupt. Like, if I was being corrupt, I'd let you think it. I'd be like, okay, cool, that's what I was doing then. I don't care. Like, it's just like at that time, this was like, you guys, this is like when like Graal was being created. Your idea of like morals doesn't fucking apply. This was before things were pay to play. This was like before things were pay to play, and I was managing Destiny as its own game on a separate FTP. So like your version of history, like it's ridiculous. It's silly. It's silly even. If you were playing this game back then, you would understand that it's silly. It's silly. Nobody cares. Here we go. If you go back to like the oldest archives, I will always be the Doom Sworder. I was the kid with the Doom Sword, and I fucking killed fucking Pachuka. So, you know, I don't care. This idea that people are like, oh my God, you're just like trying to like cover for the fact that you're being corrupt. You think I fucking care? What? What are you talking? You don't even know. You guys don't know me. Like, I don't care. I don't care, bro. Like, this was like back in 1.1. This was before accounts. It was a different world, man. Everybody was cheating. Pachuka was cheating. Gallon was fucking cheating. Pachuka admits to it in his goodbye note. We know. Well, I know he was because I was in the IRC when Armageddon was teaching me how to cheat, and Pachuka was there, and Pachuka was running around, fucking terrorizing the city, with his black Graal and his little floor tiles and stuff. Like, it was a different world. It was a different world. And I taught Lord Crazy. He was a friend of mine. Anyways, so like, there's just this weird idea in Graal today where people are like, you're just ashamed. Ashamed of what? You guys, back in 1999, I am the oldest cheater in the book. Everybody, by the way, everybody was doing it. Everybody was doing it. I'm just the one he called out. Why would I care? Do you understand, like, the disconnect in your brain? I was hacking a Doom Sword in an online medieval game, and you think I'm worried about you thinking I'm corrupt because I was going to jail someone for stealing a horse that they weren't allowed to have? This isn't a cover-up. I'm just telling you facts. I don't care. Like, so anyways, when I tell you that this is not the story that you're being shown, well, for one, you can see Spider. and if I haven't shown Spider, and if you've ever seen Spider's page of stuff, you can see he hacked me many, many times. So if you want to see, like, oh yeah, and him, who was he? He was part. He was part of the Spider crew with Waygraph and Corson and Frequent and all them. He was part of the hacking group. You can see him saying rape, literally saying rape in the photo. So Spider and it was, what was his name? It was Saros Beolv or whatever. I remember him, but he was part of like the Spider fucking hacking crew. So like these people are criminal. Like these are actual criminals in real life, and they were hacking my websites all the time. So like this idea that like for Spider of all people is in the fucking photo. Spider. You guys don't even know who Spider is. Like Spider is Spider. And he wove a little web of trouble and drama and kept a bunch of archives, and they're still available on his page, his website today, stinkybear.net, I think. So anyways, you can see I have an admin fucking guild tag. This horse was from Destiny, and Destiny was a separate game. This was when Destiny was quote unquote the first player world. It was, you could get to it through my house. Let me see here. How can I find that? Yeah, you could get to it through my house. So like, you can see that there's old like pages where people tell you that like, you can get to like different items in my house. You can get to Destiny through my house. My house was originally in Town. It was only in there for like a month. This was like between Mantara and between when they just like, so they framed me as corrupt so that they could steal Destiny. Like that's what Unixmad did. So like, remember when Unixmad, it's the same thing he did to PACHUKA. Does that make sense, you guys? It's the same thing. Like this is history repeated. This is actually like it's evil genius. So like PACHUKA created the southern map because everything else was Zelda 3. It was a replica of the light world from Zelda 3. And so PACHUKA had created the southern map, and that was when Unixmad knew he could start to try to sell Graal because it was no longer the same thing as Zelda Online. Like it wasn't as close to Zelda Online as it was. The map had like yet to be changed very much. Yeah, there were some things like different people had dropped, like certain guilds had like guild houses and stuff, but it was still pretty much Zelda 3. So PACHUKA had dropped this giant southern map. I don't know if you can I'll pull it up in a different video, I guess. There was a map where he had all of these levels. So like it was in addition to his rainbow palettes. There was another map where, and it only existed for a short time, and like people can't get access to those levels anymore because he removed them. And I don't know where you can find them. But I had played them and they were beautiful. They were very creative and interesting and dark and weird. So like when PACHUKA had dropped those, because PACHUKA created Graal, PACHUKA and Stefan created it. Unixmad came to PACHUKA and said, "You're corrupt. I don't want you on my server," and he banned him from the server. That was how Unixmad steals. Unixmad frames you as a terrible person who's not entitled to human rights and property rights and starts stealing your stuff. And he tells everybody that you were so evil he had to ban you, and then he lies and claims he owns your property, which he doesn't. So he tried to do that to PACHUKA, but PACHUKA was an adult, and so he ran to a lawyer, and he sent a cease and desist to Unixmad. So Unixmad immediately removed PACHUKA's levels, and they tried to remove most traces of PACHUKA, but there's still tons of stuff that PACHUKA did that they can't get rid of, and they wouldn't get rid of. But they got rid of the southern map. The southern fucking map. You guys, this is like the thing. Like, you guys don't understand how big the southern map is in the story of everything. And it's legendary. The southern map disappeared overnight, and it was like such a tragedy. It was like somebody had like turned, like the fire out in the room, and like the cold draft of winter had just like taken over. It was so haunting and weird because Pachuka's levels were full of color and weirdness and personality and NPCs that were doing interesting things, and they were just like born from his imagination. Yeah, I think he ripped some stuff off, but still, like the way he had pieced it together, it was so fascinating. And so, the concept was so fascinating, and the way that he had used tiles and the way he used objects and the evil and the characters he would create was legitimate because Pachuka was evil. And so, anyways, and he had he was legendary the way he had terrorized the cities as the god of mischief. It was iconic, and it's still iconic. So, anyways, that's how Unixmat did it. And so they were doing the same thing to me. They started framing me as corrupt. So Unixmat said, "I can't let you have free hosting anymore. I'm gonna move you're gonna have to I'm not gonna host Destiny." And then the next move was Destiny is being moved to the southern map where Pachuca's levels were. But I'm so corrupt that they took my admin access away. And Stefan's like, oh, but it's okay because you can continue to work on Destiny on this new FTP that I'm going to give you. And you can put your little bombies and stuff in there too. So Stefan, and that's because I had given Stefan, this came several months later. I had given Stefan the idea for the NPC server and stuff. And so he had created the NPC server for me. And then, of course, it'd be for himself, but it was for me originally. Because of my concept, it was supposed to be an animal sector. I was going to have evolving animals in my games. They were going to evolve, and they were going to have traits and stuff that they could genetically pass on to each other with mutations and things. And over time, the different creatures would start to change. That was the whole point of having different animals and bombies and things roaming around. I was originally going to. So, anyways, he gave me that new FTP access to manipulate me. But anyways, that's how he did it. So Unixmat's he's corrupt. We're going, But because I was a kid, I couldn't send a cease and desist, and I didn't understand intellectual property rights. So I wasn't able to defend myself and stop them, even though I, obviously protested much of what they were doing. So anyways, that's how Unixmat did the same thing to me that he did to Pachuka. He told Pachuka, you're corrupt, and he banned him from the server and tried to keep his levels. So he did the same thing to me, but they manipulated me. He said, you're so fucking corrupt. I'm taking Destiny. You need to start, if you want to work on that game, you have to work on it on a new FTP. So they tricked me into making a quote-unquote separate game called Graal 2001 because he wanted to steal my levels and put them in the southern map to replace Pachuka. It's the same thing. Does that make sense now? It's the same thing that he did to Pachuka. It's just that because I was a kid, he could get away with it. He knew he had to do it to a kid because if he did it to an adult, he would have the repeat situation of Pachuka where a lawyer would send him a cease and desist. So he robbed a child instead. That's where this whole corruption thing's coming from. So this horse here, it was not a corrupt situation. If it was, I would tell you it was because I don't care what you think of me. What you guys think of me doesn't matter. What's it going to do? What's it going to? If people thought that I was a corrupt person here, what's that going to matter to me? Oh my God, some people thought I was being corrupt, jailing somebody over a horse. For one, you can see Spider in the photograph, and he always walked around with his Spider would orbit around me and do wicked things constantly because I was so big. He was constantly trying to destroy Antago gravity. He was constantly hacking my computer. He was constantly harassing me. His friends were constantly saying horrific, homophobic stuff to me, targeting me and doing really evil things to me. So, Spider's in the picture. For one, that's, I'm telling you, Spider would never, he was constantly stalking me. You can look in the old archives of his website where, I'm, sitting there just arguing with him, as a 12-year-old, just, we're both bantering back and forth and lying to each other. He's a liar. Spider. Well, one thing I will say about Spider is he's actually not as big of a liar as you'd think. I would say that he's emotionally dishonest. But otherwise, Spider tends to speak the truth. He tends to speak the truth, but he's emotionally dishonest. He doesn't emotionally tell the truth. He tricks people, he plays games, he toys with people, he steals and hacks. But otherwise, he pretty much tends to tell the truth. Which I know that that sounds weird to most of you, but it's real. He's a criminal, and you know he'll lie to you to hack you and steal stuff from you, but then like he'll tell the truth about you after he robs you. So like that is one thing that like I do admire about Spider, is that even though he would lie to you to fuck your life up, in the end he would tell the truth, but it would always be with some like emotional, like a negative emotional twist to it to frame you as a bad person, which is also dishonest. So like a lot of like the stuff that you would see where I'm like arguing with him, it's because him and his grown adults were like harassing me, and I was 12 years old, and I didn't know how to take it. But he was a stalker, like a cyber stalker and a psychopath. But anyways, so this person was taking this horse. They took this horse from my video game. So like they went through the Destiny portal. They hijacked my horse while I had accidentally hopped off my horse in Destiny, and it was an admin horse from Destiny. You could not get that orange horse. You could see that. Like, you guys can see this. When people are like, oh, that's not true. Well, you can see it. Go through the old Destiny files, and you will see that the orange horse and the orange rock and the orange statues and like the orange gauntlet gloves and the orange Graal, those are all like Destiny things. Like, I went through, they were like, yeah, like I went through, there were orange bushes. I had made like a bunch of things orange, and the trees were all red. And that horse was an admin horse, which you could only get inside of Destiny. So Stefan had a bug because we were testing out the player world system, and like Stefan had a bug in his system where you could carry horses or NPCs from the portal from one FTP back into the other server. So people could take items from Destiny into the main world, and they started framing me as corrupt because stuff like that was happening, which I thought is whatever. I don't care. So like, but when you're talking about this horse, they stole that horse from me. And they brought it back into the other world, and I was like, you guys, like, I can't let you take items from my server into the other world. You're exploiting a bug. Because player worlds, at this time, guys, there were no such thing as player worlds. Destiny was the quote unquote first free hosted game that Unix had ever hosted. It was the first free player world, quote unquote. There were bugs in the system. You could take things from there. So they stole that horse, the admin horse, from my game, and they brought it back into the main world. And that was a major problem. It was a major problem because, for one, it was a bug. Two, you could duplicate that horse, and that graphic was coming from a separate FTP. So they were planning on duplicating that horse and dropping it all over the other game. And so I was like, you guys can't be exploiting bugs and taking items from one game to the other, because they were separate games. This screenshot proves that they were separate games is what it was. You can see that was the old Destiny horse. You can go look in the old files. And so, like, they weren't allowed to take that horse from one player world to the next. It was a glitch. Stefan had so many bugs in his code. I was a bug tester. A lot of the reasons why, like, Graal has gotten better the way it is today is because I was a bug tester. I was the original cheater. You could see that. Like, one of the reasons, like, that. How do you think I got my status? How do you think I ended up becoming best friends with Stefan and getting admin status when I was the first cheater of Graal? I was the Doom Sword kid. I was the kid with the Doom Sword. Officially on GraalOnline.com on 1999 on Antago, I am like me and my friend Lord Crazy. And by the way, he was my friend from real life. I trained him. I was the Doom Sword kid. I was the first Graal Online official cheater, because I had taken the things that I knew and I started bug testing the game and teaching Stefan how to fix his stuff. And I had started coming up with a bunch of ideas for the code and the client. You can see my name in various places. A lot of times they've refused to give me credit because they were my ideas were too big, and they wanted to take credit for it themselves. They stole credit for it. Why do you think I was on Graal 3D? I was constantly teaching them how the exploits were working, because I was the original fucking hacker of Graal. Now, I wasn't that great of a hacker, but anyways, so yeah, that's what that was. I was given free hosting through a separate FTP, and you could get to it through ONettown. It was near Town at the time. It was near Town for like 10 years. Anyways, you could get to Destiny through my house. And so they hijacked that because they were hackers. They were cheaters. You can look that up. Spider's like he should be in jail. Spider should be in jail with all of the criminal sick stuff he's done. And harassing kids and stalking kids and hacking children and harassing them and saying, just nasty things about them and probing into their private files and probing into their family's financial records and things like that and releasing things that don't belong to him. You can go to his old page. You can see they were getting stuff from me. You can pull that up another time, but you'll see like access to the new like beta clients. They were getting that by hacking me. And you could see like how Spider was constantly stalking me. He was stalking me into JF. He was hacking JF because he was stalking me. He was hacking Antago Gravity because that was my creators union. I was anyways. So Antago Gravity was big, and like when I was helping Stefan bug test the player world system, quote unquote, which was basically free hosting for your own games. Using Unix Mat server. And so part of that was telling people or telling Stefan about the various exploits that people and one of the biggest exploits was you could, if there was like a player, follow the player, what was it? Follows player follows me. There was like a command for it, or like, can be carried. These different commands that you could have. Various exploits would allow you, which is where I got the original idea for the NPC server, technically, is through these different things that you can see here that were happening. There was the birds. You could take the birds. You could lift the birds up and carry them from my wedding chapel, and you could drop them off at like the pub in the central, right above the swamp. And so I'm like telling Stefan, Stefan, there's like a bunch of people like taking items from my game into the other game, and these are on separate FTPs. And you can also carry birds from different levels on one server into that same server, all the same. I'm like, so I don't know why you can't have a can warp command. I was like, you need to create something called can warp. He's like, that's just not possible. I was like, well then, because I had my own account system on, with Destiny, through Destiny. And I was like, well then you need to figure out like how to start hosting NPCs as like player accounts where like I can manage NPCs and then I can have like animals traveling through levels. I was like, if people can take horses out of Destiny into the main world, and we can carry items through Destiny into the other world, and we can carry birds from one level to the next, I was like, it seems to me that there should be some like whole new system you could create. And so I called it Animal Sector. The NPC server is Animal Sector. That's the original official name of it. I had announced it on Antago Press, and Animal Sector was created for me. It was for my games, which is why it dropped on my game, Graal 2001, which was called Graal Bomby Moon. And by the way, guys, just so you know, and I'll show it in a separate video, I named Bomby Boppets after a flag in Destiny during a programming quest. So like you could go through the fire cave, and in the fire caves, you had to bomb 2 oil pots. They were lamps. You had to bomb 2 of them to open a door during one of my quests. And so I had created a flag for that, which was just like a programmatic, shorthand variable called bombed both pots. And so I wanted to, and then you would like change the flag names to kind of make them a little harder for people to figure out, just in case people were trying to cheat, and you would try to like shorten them so it was easier to remember for yourself. So like I changed it from bombed both pots, pots of the oil potted lamps, bombed both pots to bomby bow pots. So I had created a flag called BOMBY BOPOTS. It was something like that. It was in one of the fire caves in Destiny. And so when I invented the Bomby Boppets thing, they were just supposed to be like, I was actually creating a face. I think I was going to originally creating a headset. And so I created like just a circle with eyes, and then I just filled it in black. And then like I thought about, oh, what if I like put it like a shell on it, and then I just ended up giving it feet, and it was so creative that I thought it was an interesting creature to move forward with. So, anyways, I needed a name for it, and I just ripped a name out of one of my one of my files, one of my levels I was working on recently. So I must have been, yeah, I don't remember how recent it was. It was within the same month or two that I had been working on it. So like I went through and I just ripped that flag name out and I changed it into a name of the creature, and I just changed it from BOMBY BOPOTS, bombed both pots, and I changed it to BOMY BOPOTS and put a dash between it. And so that's where that name came from. There was no conspiracy there. I didn't rip anything off. I just some dumb flag name that I found in my levels, and I stuck it on the creature I invented. Everything else is pure coincidence. I promise you that. It's whatever. It's literally just a flag name from a quest. But anyways, yeah. So that horse was not supposed to be a part of the main world. That was the Destiny horse. If you go look at the old Destiny levels, like I said, the orange Graal, you couldn't get an orange Graal in Graal. There was the red, the yellow, the blue, the green, and then there was the white Graal. And when you got the white Graal, it would turn you into a priest, and you would have like purple. It was like purple, white, and red clothes. It would turn you into a priest, and you were no longer able to kill people. You would I think your sword became a healing sword. You could heal people. And so like the white Grail or whatever was like represented the healers, and then the black Grail was PACHUKAs, which represented evil, and the orange Grail was my thing. Like that represented my thing, which I never fully fleshed it out. I guess the closest I came to was I filled it with centaur blood, and then I had like my globe, the Antago globe. A lot of people don't remember that, but there was the Antago globe that kind of followed me around and had a bunch of cool powers. But anyways, so like the orange Grail was supposed to be a part of a major fucking quest, and I never really got fully around to that. But anyways, it was created, and you could see it in the old levels, and it was talked about by the witch in the levels. You can see the graphic in the old like level files. And that orange horse was part of the Destiny files. So yeah, they dragged that from one game to the next. It wasn't supposed to be happening. But anyways, so there's that, and there's just another bunch of stuff I think that you guys should have known. So you can see here I was talking about Project A sector, and Stefan was going to be moving to Paris. And I knew that, and I had access to the client because Destiny had moved to the other thing. And then I was dropping Galactic Labs, which is just something I made up. Because I had created like a cartoon character called Galactic Farlow, where I was messing around. And Galactic was kind of just like a something that rhymed with galactic. And so I named him Galactic Farlow, and like somebody would sneak out from like a water tower, and they would shoot him off it was a sniper, shot him off in the distance and killed him as he was running across the street. So I think like Galactic Farlow I was going to have a bunch of shorts where like he just died in every short. And so anyways, I ended up just like I twisted that word and called it Galactic Labs, and I created this whole like fake story of these two professors who discovered bombies. So that was like part of advertising for that. Project A sector, that is the NPC server. The NPC server is A sector. Stefan just like refuses to admit it because he's pathetic. He's fucking like sick. He's like 50 years old, like still lying like a fucking child. He's pathetic. Version 1.4. I was dropping all kinds of news. Too bad like all the images are missing on this website because this was super cool. I had like illustrations, animations, and stuff going all over my website. It was awesome. But this is like, you can't see any of the graphics in the background images and the icons and the flash and the animations anymore. But you can read some of the text in the archives. But yeah. So that's just a little bit more of that history. I kind of wanted to go into Captain USA. Like, we had good times. I don't know why he is. I don't know. I just felt really slighted by his comments. I guess maybe I'm being a little bit bitter here, but I truly believe he was being. I actually truly believe he was being manipulative, because there's no way. For one, there's no way he forgot me. We were in. I mean, I was around since the beginning, except for the only thing I wasn't a part of was Zelda Online. I was not a part of Zelda Online when it was literally just people running around playing as Link, and it was a ROM community, because I'm not a pirate. I don't pirate stuff. So, but I was always a part of Graal, always, and there's just like this agenda by people to pretend like I wasn't there for the same reason they were hacking my stuff and lying consistently. They're just jealous. It's bizarre. It's completely bizarre to me. Like, who cares? You've got 50 fucking schizophrenic personalities, but you can't remember your friends. But he remembers the pedophile, and he wants to ask all the kids where the pedophile's at. Like, just stop. Give it a rest.